Is the United States actually preparing for a covert, high-stakes military operation to snatch a foreign leader from his own soil? That is the explosive question former National Security Advisor John Bolton just threw into the center of the American political conversation. Before we continue, if you want to stay on top of everything happening in U.S. politics, hit that subscribe button right now and leave a like. It really helps this channel grow and ensures you don't miss our deep dives into the stories the mainstream media might be glossing over. So, here is exactly what is happening. John Bolton, a man who served at the highest levels of the Trump administration, appeared on News Nation this week to voice a chilling concern. He suggested that the current political climate and the specific way the Trump administration is positioning its foreign policy might be leading toward a radical military action in Cuba. Specifically, Bolton is worried that there is a legitimate risk the administration could attempt to kidnap or snatch former Cuban President Raul Castro. Now, you might be asking, why would they do this? And why now? The context here revolves around the idea that an indictment against a leader like Castro isn't just a legal maneuver, it's being viewed by some as a potential pretext for something much larger. Bolton's argument implies that by labeling high-ranking figures in the Cuban government as criminals, the administration creates a legal and moral justification for a snatch operation. From there, it's a short leap to argue that such an action could be the spark that ignites a much broader U.S. military intervention on the island. This is not a conversation about diplomacy, it is a conversation about the projection of power and the limits of executive authority. Bolton, who has long been a vocal proponent of regime change and a hardline stance against the Cuban government, is signaling that this specific strategy is something he finds deeply concerning. He isn't necessarily against the goal of political change in Cuba. In fact, he has been an outspoken advocate for it for years, but he is questioning the methodology. He is asking whether the administration is willing to cross a red line that could result in unintended, potentially catastrophic, military consequences. Let's analyze what this really means for the geopolitical landscape. If an operation like this were to move forward, it would be a departure from recent norms of international relations. It mirrors tactics usually reserved for shadow wars or counterterrorism operations, not for regime change against a sovereign, albeit adversarial, nation. The fallout would be massive. We are talking about the potential for massive civil unrest in Havana, a global diplomatic crisis at the United Nations, and the very real possibility of a military conflict that could draw in regional powers. Furthermore, this highlights a rift within the conservative foreign policy establishment. You have the America First wing, which is often skeptical of interventionism, clashing with the traditional hawk wing of the party, represented by figures like Bolton. When a former national security advisor publicly cautions his own party's leadership against such a move, it tells us that there is a high degree of uncertainty and perhaps some internal intel about what is actually being planned in the Oval Office. This isn't just speculation, it is a high-level warning shot. The outcome of such a scenario is impossible to predict with certainty, but the risks are clear. Any attempt to forcibly remove a political leader from a foreign country, whether by kidnapping or a specialized military snatch operation, would fundamentally change the relationship between the U.S. and the Caribbean for a generation. It would validate the most extreme narratives of the Cuban government and likely solidify their grip on power through a rally around the flag effect. So, what do you think about this? Is John Bolton rightfully concerned about an overreach of power, or is this just another chapter in the long, complex history of U.S.-Cuba relations? Drop your opinion in the comments below. I read every single one. This situation is evolving by the hour, and as we look toward the coming weeks, we have to ask ourselves how far the administration is willing to go to secure their foreign policy objectives. We will keep you updated as more details emerge on this developing story. Thank you for watching, and stay informed.